Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Sercypher here with Let's Play Company of Heroes multiplayer, and I am joined here today by fellow forum member EXH,
Alright.
and this is actually a multiplayer game we played a couple days ago, and this is like our third attempt on trying to get it
Fourth, I
recorded.
think?
Yeah, trying to get it recorded properly, but I've got high hopes for this one. We were just playing against, random other players, and I was a little rusty, but thankfully EXH picked up the slack, and we ended up doing okay. So I'm going to start this recording in 3, 2, 1. So pretty standard openings from all sides. The American player doesn't build an extra squad of engineers, but he builds a weapon support center.
That's actually fairly unusual.
Yeah. Not as much though, I think, in two-player games. In one-player games it's pretty rare, I think.
Yeah.
You're going for standard Wehrmacht quarters.
Yeah,
With
Wehrmact.
two pioneers, and the British player is forget what they're building out of their headquarters. I think they built a Bren first.
Yeah. We should probably note that this map is called Alsace-Moselle, if that's how you butcher French.
Well, and Company of Heroes, the maps a lot of times determine the game, and the biggest thing on this map, at least on my side, is this farmhouse, and on your side is this town.
Yeah, in the south east.
Now, I build for my first squad of grenadiers, and then my second squad of grenadiers, I build the compo group company because I wanted to get on an infantry half track fast.
Yeah. That didn't quite end up. It's kind of leaving you lacking against this Bren and an infantry section, especially after they snipe you.
Yes. Yeah, he pays the 25 munitions for the snipe, and I end up having to fight that off.
Get right out of there. Meanwhile, I'm capturing my side of the map pretty undisputed, but that's because the American decided to build a machine gun and throw it into your house, even though it was, at this stage and for the next 5 minutes, completely unnecessary.
Yeah, but that machine gun is pretty much a constant thorn in my side for most of the beginning of the game because for some reason I was just kind of having a brain fart, and I did not deal with it in a good manner. But you're just taking this whole town. We've got the middle, and I think you go in here to cap this strategic point with your pioneers.
Yes, this victory point.
Yeah, the victory point.
Each of my the middle and southern victory points are both being capped by pioneers.
Kind of an interesting thing is Cunt Destroyer is placing a observation post on this munitions point in the south.
Yeah, very early. And oh yes, and just slightly north of that is that MG resetting up to shoot at my Volksgrenadiers, and then my Volksgrenadiers moving. I knew that the American MG wasn't very well ranged, so I sent them north, left, and then south again to capture the munition points without getting shot at by the MG. And as you'll see, by the time he realized that that was happening, it was too late, and he wasn't able to stop that cap.
At the same time, I'm trying to fight off this infantry section of this Bren carrier with my Volksgrenadiers, and I managed to retreat the infantry section, and I move in here with my Grenadiers. Sort of an interesting thing for the British when they build a Bren carrier. It's advantageous because it's the only transport vehicle you can build that any faction can build, from their starting building. But also, British are the only faction that can't build engineers right away, so they don't have any way of repairing it besides using its ability that costs munitions.
Yeah, and as you can see here, that last 5% is really not happening.
Yeah.
This is the Bren's equivalent of the 5% bug, where it's just not taking that last 5% damage because it's not getting, your units aren't getting a crit. And you're at this point yelling at me like, "This damn Bren, I need to get it," and so you're playing very risky with this one squad on the right.
Yeah.
And I said, no, 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 don't worry about it. I got it. Because I'm coming in through the south with some Volksgrenadiers to take that gun carrier out.
Yeah, at the same time,
I
I wasn't paying attention. I lose one squad to this machine gun in this barn, another squad to this mortar pit. But at least you managed to salvage something by running in here and blasting this this Bren carrier.
Have you talked about floating manpower?
No, but I think you know, in any sort of in RTS, generally you want to spend all of your resources unless you're really saving up for something. And
yeah, so at the time that I killed his Bren carrier, the Brit was floating 900 manpower, which is enough for two and a half infantry sections. And that much infantry could have very easily torn my Volksgrenadiers to pieces and probably forced me to retreat before I was able to destroy it.
I'm not floating any manpower because I keep letting my squads die, so I don't have to worry about that. Just as far as tech goes.
Oh, and in the south, quickly, you see how the American is capping with the sniper? Don't do that.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Yeah, snipers capping are always a bad idea, especially if you have any idea that they might have. Was that your sniper's first kill?
That was that sniper's first kill. Yeah.
Okay, so he didn't have any idea that you even had a sniper.
Yeah. And we see them finally paying attention to the victory points by decapping it in the middle. And I wasn't fond of that, so I set a little trap for these guys while you're messing around, scoping out what the Brits got. So what I did here, near the victory point, was I saw that their lieutenant was low health, and I thought, that's a perfect thing to destroy lots of manpower, and then move on to the American and lure him into a trap with my machine gun and Volksgrenadiers supporting. He fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker, as you'll see.
Yeah, you've got a lot of machine guns in that town. I built a mortar half track, as well as my infantry half track to try and deal with this situation in the middle. But the British is going pretty much full turtle. We got a Vickers emplacement here. We've got the American machine gunner in the house. We have a mortar pit back here, and my mortar half track is not going to be able to deal with that level of entrenchment.
Well, not immediately.
Not immediately.
Anyway. And that you may notice that they never captured their northern VP.
Yes.
And I just decapped the middle VP, which and they haven't recapped it. That's actually going to be a shockingly important series of events there for the outcome of the game a bit later.
Yeah, I think sometimes people forget about MP or the victory points because, you know, on your map when you see enemy territory sectors, they're big and they're glaring and they take up a lot of space.
We have gained momentum on
so if you see a red territory sector, you want to take it. But for some reason, people see red or white VPs. A lot of times they just ignore them. As far as tech, you're finally building your, well, not finally, but you get your tier 2 building now. You've got
yeah, sometimes I skip it, but I figured I was a bit low on anti-tank.
You've got,
which I was. And at this point, I think I'm screaming at you, heads up, they're building a Beaufort
yeah.
in the middle. You should move your infantry half-track to take care of that very quickly. And, well, let's see how that turns out.
Yeah, I don't really deal with this, and it probably would have been better off just ignoring it, because I didn't really have a good strategy for trying to kill it. But it just...
And it finishes.
It opens up on me. I'm trying to get my mortar half-track out of there, but it gets stuck on some logs.
The company is available to take the field. Our half-track unit is kaput.
Yeah. And between the Piats and the Beauforts, that's one dead mortar half-track.
And my infantry half-track, though, it looks like it's going to get stuck on a log too, but it narrowly managed to dodge some Piats and scoot its way out of there. The American player, he built his barracks now too. No supply yard yet. The British player, you saw these sappers over here with Piats. So he has his second supply truck as well.
But very importantly, he just went Royal Engineers, and he has a lot of manpower, and it's called in a Churchill.
Okay.
And that's a very, for both of us who have very little anti-tank, that's a big move. The total of our anti-tank ability right now is 1 pack, which against a Churchill is just not going to cut.
I see people do this, and I don't feel like a Churchill.
We are losing a
I feel like
sector.
if you're going to call in an early Churchill, it's better to use it as a defensive thing. Like, for example, if the enemy gets early armored cars or light tanks, then the Churchill can clean that up. But a Churchill is not a big damage dealer. It doesn't have a very good gun on it. It's slow. I don't feel like you can really effectively use it offensively early on.
I would disagree
Really?
with that. I'd say that if you get it this early, you might as well push forward and use it offensively. And especially because you really don't have to be especially cautious with it, because it is so heavily armored, as you'll see. It just has tons and tons of armor and will not go down from just a surprise attack from a cloaked pack or two. But you do still have to be cautious with it, as any time when you're advancing in Churchill.
One thing, though, is that he sends it in completely unsupported, which obviously is going to cause him some problems. Because, like, even if he had just walked those sappers over there to, to charge that anti-tank gun with him, instead of waiting for them to finish capping the point, he might have been able to kill this AT gun. But instead, he just drove it over there by
The
itself.
enemy is weakening even now.
Well, he's doing a good job of microing it around my AT gun. But as I was like, hey, can you help me with this Churchill? You did end up sending those troops up there.
Yeah, I send up some
And,
Panzer Shrek guys, and they managed to
saved me a lot of
managed to chase it away. But you see, even though it took a rear armor hit there, but that Churchill had taken about 3-4 shots from the anti-tank gun at close range, and it only took it down a little bit. Like, it's taken probably 6 or 7 shots now, and it's only about half health.
I think 3 or 4 from just the AT gun, and then 1 or 2 from the
An
Panzer
enemy unit has
Shreks.
fallen to our
I think
might.
total before it got out of there, and it's still just below half health. It is a beast. But as you can see, it's also not very effective against shooting infantry, and it's not a whole lot better against tanks. It's just kind of a big menacing thing on the field that just doesn't take a lot of damage.
I feel like its best role, and when it can really be a game changer, is if you're playing an opponent and they get out early armored vehicles, like light armored vehicles, and you don't have a response to it. A Churchill is not going to be able to get hurt by any early armored vehicle, and its gun at least can take over armored cars and stuff like that.
Yeah. He also decided to use his ground and pound, as I call it, the infantry shock, which instantly suppresses all infantry around it. As soon as he got around my AT gun, AT guns and other hauled weapons don't get
suppressed.
Don't get suppressed. Don't confuse hauled weapons with weapons you can just pick up, like machine guns. Those can't get suppressed.
You see, I see he threw a sticky bomb at your motorcycle there. I think it was so he could move in his sniper.
I didn't expect that. He definitely got my my bike. Yeah, that was actually a good move on his part.
At this point, I've basically decided to go mostly infantry. I get the logistics company to increase my squad sizes from 3 to 4. The American player now has his supply yard, but no mortar pool or tank depot. And the British player now has a 17-pounder there along with his Bofors. So, but basically almost no infantry. He has 2 squads of sappers, and
I thought he had an infantry section.
I think it must have gotten killed. I don't see it. Let me look at his.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Yeah.
So he's going really heavy armor and anti-tank.
Yeah, and notice how he still hasn't captured that middle VP, even though there's just nothing defending. There's just nothing we can do if they decided to take that.
His Churchill walks over here to deal with your machine gun, which I think got caught a little bit out of position.
Yep. And it's completely
At the
ineffective
same
at it.
time, I have this brilliant plan where I would drive my grenadiers over here to take out this machine gun, but I neglected to purchase
and,
incendiary grenades, so I kind of just sit here and shoot at it.
Yeah. Now, whether or not you have incendiary grenades, what I would recommend you do in the future is move one of those squads to the right end of that wall there, and have the other one advance up the left hedgerow, because you're taking both more damage from the MG and the mortar at the same time because they were clumped together. And if your one infantry squad is on the say the left side in between the hedge and it, and the mortar tried to fire at them, you would start hitting their own MG, as well as the MG would have to replace in case you had to move out the other squad.
On a side note, the final blow to my half-track was due to the Rangers that just showed up, so now we know that he is infantry section. So we have to deal with that. You are still... looks like you got pushed out of the town there on the bottom.
I got pushed out of the town, but he didn't take it back for some reason. I was expecting a huge counterattack, and they'd just come in and capture everything and occupy, but that just didn't happen. I guess he just didn't have the capping power to do it at the time. But now we've got a major attack and an important battle coming up right here between my pack, my Stu, and their Churchill and Stuart. You can see the Churchill using his suppressed infantry ability immediately in combat again, which against my MG that's not going to do anything against it anyway. It's not a big deal.
I feel like we've got that 5% bug going on there. That Churchill's taken quite a few stun shots at 5%.
Actually, I don't think that one was 5% bug, because the STA is actually quite ineffective. Almost as ineffective, actually probably even more so than the Churchill at shooting tanks. And with the penetration values against the Churchill, they're just never going to hurt each other. So the Stuart is probably better than the Churchill or STA at shooting other vehicles.
Ready to respond.
How you got yet another motorcycle, so hopefully this one will have a little bit better luck.
Yeah, I think this one's maybe 2, motorcycle 2. And you're engaging them with your infantry, and pushing the American back completely, which is a good move on your part, because attacking the British emplacement with all his Bofors and machine guns and 17 Panthers has just been like...
Yeah, I decided I'd lost quite enough squads over there, and I was like, at least I'll try and help you out a little bit on the bottom.
An enemy unit has fallen.
Which is true and correct, and a good decision. I was going to help you out a little bit more, but I figured that it would just be better for me to help and to push forward and cause as much damage to the American to prevent him from helping the Brit out anymore.
Yeah, and sort of in a sort of waiting game situation, when things are equal for most of the game, the Axis tends to have an advantage. And so the longer the Axis, especially the Wehrmacht, can get resources and buy veterancy and things like that, the more the game kind of swings into their favor.
Yeah, like you may notice that my veterancy has slowly been ticking up. Like right now, I'm my tanks are vet 2, and my support infantry is vet 3, which makes my sniper fire faster and make sure that my pioneers won't die.
I chose Luftwaffe doctrine, and I called in Fallschirmjägers, which are essentially almost like the Panzer Elite version of airborne, except that instead of calling them in from the sky, you can either call them in from your base, or you can call them into an abandoned building. And
keep in mind that it needs to be occupiable, so if you couldn't otherwise occupy the building, like it was destroyed or on fire, you would not be able to...
At the same time, they just finished upgrading with FG-42s, which are basically the best small arm in the game, because they're rapid fire, and even at long range, they have
And by basically
Yeah, you see that they just, those Rangers tried to charge them with Thompsons, and they just got murdered because they're essentially a submachine gun with a rifle range and accuracy. I accidentally retreat them though, because
yeah, like I mentioned in my posts, they have rifle accuracy at long range, probably the best medium range accuracy, and just as good as Thompson's at close range. So also higher damage. So they are a weapon. One of the three.
I think I accidentally retreated them because I was trying to retreat these guys from those armored cars, and I guess I think I just had them all selected at once. I have all 4 buildings now, and I'm just basically just getting infantry upgrades.
Yep, and now here's another tank attack rush coming in by the Brits. He decided that he's going to go for my area again, and I have a couple of surprises.
Yeah, I see your stealth AT gun, and that's a pretty smart place to put it because that's the same. This is the same area that they keep coming through. This gap in the forest.
Yeah, the one that fought in the previous battle was actually much more forward. Okay. Now I mentioned that the stub won't do anything against tanks, but light vehicles, that's something else.
The enemy does bring in a Sherman Firefly here, though, and
yeah, that will be very effective against tanks. I think it has the longest range of any tank in the game. But I decided to finally get my stormtroopers, and they do a significant amount of damage to this Firefly. Both Panzer strikes hit.
And just for the record, it's just your Blitzkrieg doctrine, and stormtroopers are essentially the same. They're roughly similar to grenadiers, but they can stealth, which is very important because unlike other grenadiers, the enemy often doesn't know that their tank's about to get blown up by Panzerschrecks until the stormtroopers decloak and shoot, Panzerschrecks into the back of the tank. Yeah, or your British emplacements. Did you kill all of his staghounds? No, I think the staghounds got away, but the Firefly.
No, they were really low health and retreated.
Yeah.
Like you can go back and see that they have maybe 10%. One of them has 10% health, and they're about to finish.
I keep advancing. I chase down this AT gun, and pretty much try and help you out. But I think we kind of realize that we're basically lucky that the enemy hasn't captured this victory point, but they're probably going to do so eventually, and we kind of need to go on the offensive.
Yeah. So for every 3 or so seconds that this has been going on, that they haven't been capturing that when they had the opportunity maybe 10 minutes ago, we would have been losing another point. So they would have a significant advantage at this point if they.
The enemy's coming in here with a big wad of infantry. Your sniper's trying to get out of there, but he lures them onto a mine.
Well, yeah.
I turned this building in here into a forward outpost, which is going to allow your guys around it to get healed.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised at the rate at which they killed my sniper. They die really quickly, but usually not quite that quickly. So that was the end.
But the enemy, they're trying to escape, but I had guys in the forest, so they have to run through a barrage of fire, and only 4 guys, I think. Nope, 3 guys make it out of there. So at this point, the American...
Yeah, and while that was going on, the Brits lost another sapper up at your other blob of infantry next to the middle munitions point.
Send your orders.
Yeah, and it's sort of the British player really all they really built after the beginning of the game is sappers, emplacements, and tanks.
Attention.
Which
the enemy advances.
Obviously is not really a balanced strategy.
Yeah. Now remember that sneaky bit we were talking about earlier? Well, if you look towards the British starting point, you'll see my stormtroopers snug up to their armor command tank.
And you see that, yeah. I mean, Panzerschrecks do a ridiculous amount of damage to buildings.
Oh yeah. Also, interesting note is that. Oh yeah, here we go with the bundle grenade, the best grenade.
Actually, hey, one second. I'm going to pause the video for 1
The
second.
enemy is weakening
pause it.
even now.
I'm at where? All right, we're back. Yeah, it's a
The
pretty
enemy is weakening even now.
pretty ridiculous kill there by those stormtroopers. They managed to take out that armor command truck and just kill a rifleman squad in about 2 seconds.
With a little bit of help from the British mortar emplacement, to be fair.
Yeah, one of them got taken out by a little mortar. I'm basically sending all of my infantry back to my base because I noticed this is happening. The enemy's got 2 armored cars and Firefly parked outside my base.
Yeah. Now, a common mistake is for people to think this game is Command and Conquer
The enemy
1942.
is attacking a
It is
petrol
not
enemy unit
that. You
eradicated.
cannot just mass tanks and then attack move into the enemy base and have it work. Because Micro will always win against that.
And that's basically what the British players seemed his plan was to just turtle the middle and then just build a bunch of tanks and try and kill our bases. But that didn't work against you because you had AT guns, and
Our enemies
it's,
will cower
uh,
as
Well, I only had one AT gun.
Yeah.
And that-
but it was enough to chase off that first Churchill.
yeah. Well, that and the combination of 2 strike squads.
Yeah. Those are always not fun. I try and just send a move here with a giant blob, but he's smart enough to move his tanks back behind his hedgerow.
And
The
shoot
enemy
peons
will
at you from
never
over
be
the
able
head.
to
Yeah.
match the efficiency of our support command
So I
structure.
try and kind of spread out here, and there's just Panzer Shreks going everywhere.
Yeah, and during pretty much most of the rest of the game, you can just assume what I'm doing is microing my stew around and slowly destroying everything that American holds dear.
Well, thankfully you have armor skirts now, because you're Veterancy 3, so pretty much anything these Rangers or the rifles do to your STA is not really going to be effective.
Yeah, and then there goes those
We have eliminated the
Bolsheviks
enemy once more.
killing dudes again.
Yeah, he had his engineers, his sappers repairing his tanks, but
Yeah.
it's not explicitly stated sometimes because there's a lot of things about company affairs that aren't stated. But units that are repairing essentially take triple damage. They take double accuracy and double damage.
Something like that, yeah. They take a lot of damage. You do not want to get your infantry cut out when they're repairing, especially not an expensive unit like Panzer Grenadiers.
I think I was a little zoomed out, but they brought a steward here. I think I got at least one good canister shot on my Grenadiers, but he emplaces his tanks now with his Royal Engineers hold down ability. But then I remember that I actually bought anti-tank grenades.
Yeah. What the hull down ability does is it reduces the chance of penetration and received damage. So it's actually pretty useful, except the lack of mobility against tanks is a serious decision you have to make.
And also, he has no way to dodge these anti-tank grenades. I'm about to start chucking over this hedgerow.
Yeah. Now, normally, as fast as you're going to be throwing these, you wouldn't be able to throw them out in the wild, but because you're in your base territory with defensive operations, you see that little ammo indication spinning above their heads. That means that they're refilling their abilities very quickly.
Yes.
So you're able to throw those at an incredible rate.
Panzer Elite have some weird mechanics, especially with the ammo that normally don't really come up. Most of the Panzer Elite abilities, like incendiary grenades, anti-tank grenades, have a really long cooldown. But if you're near something that supplies you with ammo, represented by these little spinning discs, the cooldown is greatly reduced. And you can build a kind of half-track that will give ammo to the units around it, but no one ever really builds those. They're called supply half-tracks. And
They can poop out some
An enemy unit has
Goliath.
fallen
yes,
to
that's
our
true.
right.
That's the only reason I see anybody build them is they can build Goliaths with the same Goliaths that the Wehrmacht can build from their bunkers, which are essentially remote control cars with explosives on them.
Oh yeah, and I meant to mention earlier when my stormtroopers took out their armored truck is that the Wehrmacht Panzer Shreks are actually more effective and more damaging than the Panzer Elite equivalent.
Is that as they're two separate weapons, or is it just when you pick them up?
In the code, it's two separate weapons because for balance reasons, when 1.6 came out, the expansion, the Panzer Elite were wicked powerful, and their Panzer Shreks doing incredible amounts of damage did not help that. You know, when they can have double Panzer Shreks, they were just tearing everything to pieces.
Yeah, I could see that because the Panzer Elite veterancy is, I think, for the most part, the benefits they get, I mean, depending on whether you choose offense or defense, is better than the Wehrmacht veterancies.
And the American, I'd
yeah,
say.
so that's...
But the thing about that is they also had to nerf that for vehicles, especially the defensive veterancy, because it got to the point where you were just incapable of killing their tanks because you just couldn't penetrate.
Yeah, people would go like triple defensive vet on a Hetzer, and it would just have like bullet.
And the thing would just never die.
Made of everything would just bounce off it.
And the Jag Panther was even worse. Much worse, actually, by quite a long shot.
I'm surprised you actually picked up this bazooka from these from these Rangers.
Well, those are just Volksgrenadiers. That's what I use them for. I use them for fodder.
Yeah, you see, he's got this. Oh, he calls it an artillery strike on you, but because you have these side skirts. I mean, also just because you're triple veteran, but especially because you have the side skirts, those bazookas just hit you. They just didn't do anything.
Level 3 veterancy comes with the side skirts.
Yeah.
Or is that level 2? Whatever.
It's level 2. Level 1 is just normal benefits. Level 2 is you get the machine gunner for most Wehrmacht vehicles.
Level 1, I think, is reduced damage taken, I think, by 25%.
Yeah, and
level 2 is that top gunner, and maybe side skirts, maybe not.
I think side skirts are 3, as more rockets are coming in and just bouncing off your stuff. And here comes a sticky bomb, which also...
that 5% bugged on me. That was a good example of 5% bug, where that should have died.
Well, I'm pretty sure in one of the patches they changed it, so now if you have side skirts, there's a chance that a sticky bomb just won't do anything.
Oh. Or maybe that's what happened instead, but it did deal damage.
Yeah, it did deal some, but I guess it didn't roll a crit, and that just crawl away out of there.
Yeah, because out of control and other things like that are specific kind of crit that happens.
So I'm now with all my giant wads of infantry, which are almost all veteran. I just kind of keep storming up the middle because emplacements and stuff, and things that are suppressed, machine guns. Once you have super high veterancy infantry on the map, they're not the same impediment as they are to green infantry.
Yeah. And if we just look right now at where are your Fallschirmjägers? If we looked at your Fallschirmjägers when you were fighting off his attack on the
butterfly bombs are now available
on your base, they had 14 kills. I'd like to keep an eye on that kill number for that.
Yeah, actually, quite a few of my like these grenadiers have 16 kills.
Yeah, my stew has 27 infantry, 1 tank, and 1 building. Oh, and by the way, we missed it, but I'm on bike number 3 now.
At the same time, though, they still haven't captured this victory point in the middle. So this whole time, they probably could have won. I mean, it's been about 15, 20 minutes.
Won, yeah, it would have been much. We would be sweating
right
now. We would have less than 100.
I mean, they might not have won, but we would have to be wasting time trying to get to the middle and capture it back. Time and manpower instead of just fighting them.
I would not be able to lock the American in his base and just be devastating everything he had if it weren't for that. I would really have to help you with the Brits.
I keep fighting them here. I call in a Whirlwind Flak Panzer, which is essentially the AA emplacement in your base, but it's on a mobile vehicle. It's a call-in vehicle for the Panzer Elite.
Yeah, it's very effective against infantry, but it's kind of squishy.
Yeah, it's not very heavily armored, and it's basically ineffective against tanks. It can chew up light vehicles, though.
Yeah. Can, if it's not a
Yeah.
Stewart.
Well, you know, armored cars, half-track, stuff like that.
And at this point, I figured that the best way to get rid of the Brits would be to get a couple of walking Stukas. So I did that.
See, I'm always sometimes on the fence whether to go with the Stukas or Nuremberwerfers.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I only had T2.
Oh, okay.
And my pioneers were very busy constantly repairing my Stu because I was microing it pretty well. At this stage, anyway.
So you see I'm throwing anti-tank grenades at his Bofors gun. Kill the crew.
Yeah, I until I watched this replay for the third time, I didn't realize how effective anti-tank grenades were against British places.
Yeah, especially because unlike Panzer Shreks, the anti-tank grenades can't miss. They'll always land where you throw them. So against buildings, sometimes a Panzer Shrek, you'll shoot at a building 3 feet in front of you, and your guy will shoot it into the ground. But
yeah, and the rocket barrage by the Nebelwerfers ends up causing the American to
rage quit.
To quit. I don't know if it was full of rage or frustration or what, but he definitely quit. And the thing was that right after he quit, his howitzer shell finally killed the Stu that had been harassing him all this time.
Yeah, I see its broken remnants over here.
So if you're watching Cunt Destroyer,
the enemy is weakening even now.
But that stud definitely earned that 500 manpower that it cost to bring it in.
oh yeah. And let's check in with your Fallschirmjägers having 2 kills now. 23. So they have gotten nearly another 10 kills.
And even my normal grenadiers have 20-something kills. But I still, even with all these infantry, I don't have any good way of getting in here. So I call in the last ability on the one side of the Luftwaffe tree, the Henschel support run.
That's left side, right?
Which is, it's sort of like Overwatch artillery in that you pick a portion of the map and you have planes that keep flying in and they shoot essentially like AT guns at everything under them. And so I take out his Firefly with them. It's blowing up all his emplacements, shooting at his support truck. So it's pretty effective if you can actually call it in on somebody's base. And you get quite a few planes. You see there, that even blows up his support truck.
Superiority once again.
Now I have a feeling that your Fallschirmjägers are going to stack up the kills now. Oh, or they're just...
I think they might actually get killed here.
No way.
Now,
Fallschirmjägers are better than
the enemy has changed his tune a little bit.
But the Brits, oh that's right, they call it a Churchill crocodile.
Yeah, and the Churchill Crocodile is basically a combination of a flamer tank and a normal tank. It has a normal cannon that a Churchill has, and it can shoot that, and it also has mounted on the hull in front of it a heavy vehicle flamer. So it's a...
And it's a big flaming jerk. It just blasted through that awesome
yeah.
pile.
It blew up this car pile. And...
Also, still no...
Yes, but still, they're just leaving this here. The enemies, I guess, realized that maybe he should build more infantry, so he's pounding out infantry now.
Well, I mean, he's floating 600 manpower, though.
I throw 2 AT grenades at this Churchill just to take it down a little bit, but that flamethrower does so much damage, sets the woods on fire, and my guys have to bail it out of there. One thing to mention...
There's no way the Churchill gets...
One thing to mention, as it destroys my Whirlwind.
Well, actually, that was the...
Oh, okay. The Churchill actually has heavy crush. aka it can drive through hedgerows like tigers and panthers and Pershing tanks. So if you're on a map that has hedgerows, if you get a Churchill early, you can drive through them and open up new advances for your troops.
And you can see here he uses his ground stomper, which is actually a
Yeah,
good time
suppresses all of my infantry.
Too bad it had no health.
The enemy's tanks do not stand
He
a
suppresses
chance
all of my
against
infantry,
our
sets them on
superior
fire, but I
fighting
just have too many Panzer Shrek guys there, so he ends up...
And you also have plenty of munitions, because we've held on to most of our munitions for most of the game.
I actually have almost no munitions. I only have like...
Well, you have enough to
continuously throw grenades. Because I spent a lot of it on that Henschel support run in his base.
Oh yeah, that's like
Yeah.
a 200 munition sink, isn't it?
But yeah, it normally pays for itself. You've got the
As long as
you've
you
got
place
the
it.
Tiger. I think you've actually had the Tiger for a while, but since it
Yeah, my Tiger's been moving back and forth, not getting
I mean
killed.
they're on. This guy's the AI, so he's. I mean, you're just basically cleaning house at this point.
Yeah, I'm just really just trying to slaughter the rest of the Americans. Have that happen. Because the Brits failed to capture the middle, I really didn't have to focus on them at all. I felt kind of bad leaving you to it, but...
Well, the British, I move in here. I managed to take out his mortar pit with another AT grenade, but he has so many infantry now, and the British infantry, even if they're not veteran or anything, they have so many AOE weapons generally that if you have a lot of infantry and they have a lot of infantry, normally they'll come out on top because they have rifle grenades, they have Piets, they have Brens, and those are all really effective against large masses of infantry.
And if you look north to where your Kettenkrad is capturing that victory point, you can see that you're also detecting mine on the left. It was actually a pretty nice
Burn them out.
placement,
Now
well,
have
decent one anyway,
incendiary
but
grenades at our disposal.
Count Destroyer.
I didn't notice
Now,
that.
the way that you want to place mines is actually, you want to place them facing, with two of them facing the direction you think the enemy's going to come, because it'll do more damage that way. You also probably want to, in this case, you'd probably want to place them in between the tank traps a little bit more than right in the middle, but that'll...
Well,
that'll
see,
still do
sometimes
it.
what players do, and I mean, it's obvious after the fact, but I fall for it all the time, is they'll put tank traps like here, and then they'll leave one... Like, if he had left this spot with no tank traps, and then put the mine there, I would have probably been like, oh, he forgot to put tank traps here. And,
He has murdered our Fallschirmjäger brothers.
And you're right, you're
yeah, they got there's so many rifle grenades and Piets and Bren guns that I move in here thinking,
Oh, but you have...
yeah, I call in
bombs
butterfly
right there.
bombs around his base, which are basically you call it in, they're airdropped, and they're kind of like mini mines. They don't do as much damage as a normal mine, but they can still kill an infantry or can disable an engine on a tank or something if it rolls over it.
Yeah, one of the better uses for
We are losing territory.
Butterfly bombs.
for the,
Oh, the
mine
mine
flail is actually to take out butterfly bombs. That's one of the few times that I'll ever use it.
We must injure the
Also,
enemy and
you
reduce
see how
his
he's
300
using
points.
only one... He's only capturing one thing. Okay, now he's finally sending his...
Yeah, he's got like
end up north to
12
capture the
guys
victory
on
point,
one
but
strategic point.
He's got a lot of infantry, way more bunch than it needs to be, especially because of how close these points are. He could have been capturing all
losing
three at once,
ground.
but...
And for the record, I mean, even though sometimes I'll accidentally misclick and do it, more infantry does not mean you capture the point faster.
An enemy unit has fallen.
So there's no point in having your infantry, and also, but what does happen is all the infantry who are capturing it, they all get the defense penalty that you get from capturing a point. So there's no advantage,
Yep.
and you get a big disadvantage. So you should never do that.
Yep. And I'm watching my Tiger shoot shells at infantry and then watching it bounce off the destroyed HQ.
The last ranger got executed by this sniper.
Yep. And now up north we've got a big...
Yeah, he moves out with all his troops, and you're trying to catch him with the Stukas, and
Which weren't all too accurate. I kind of misfired there.
But I'm coming in from behind.
At this point in the game, I didn't really care about my pack enough to move it, though normally you'd want to move it back.
And instead of trying to shoot at his troops, I had my guys, especially these grenadiers, shooting at the LTs. And really, if you're playing against a British player and they have veteran LTs, that makes a huge difference compared to shooting the infantry. Because the infantry, it doesn't matter if you kill. They don't get veterancy. But if you can kill a rank 3 lieutenant, it severely reduces the effectiveness of their guys.
Oh, they'll drop like flies like that if they were taking too much fire. So you call in some more butterfly bombs and they'll get to explode. Most of them.
Same time, your stormtroopers sneaking around again and taking out this headquarters command truck.
Yep. And with the American base destroyed and the Brit on their last Vickers emplacement, this is the very end of the game.
And really, they were doing pretty well in the beginning, especially because I was doing so poorly. But they didn't capitalize on that by capturing all the victory points.
The enemy is weak.
And because they didn't do that, we basically won. And we might still have won if they had captured the victory points, but it would have been a lot more tense.
Yeah, it would have been a lot closer, but instead we got an annihilate victory.
Yeah, which is pretty rare in team games.
It's just very rare in
any
any
VP
VP games. Usually people will quit or it'll tick out first before that happens, but you know, that was just the way the cookie crumbled. The Brit actually set up in a really good position to cover both VPs, but then neglected to capitalize.
Yeah, and I think
on
that the Americans' decision to go weapon support center first was okay because they got this farmhouse for sure, and they covered this side of the map. But there's no point in working really hard to capture one half of the map if you're just gonna not do anything to the other half. You know what I mean? It's just 50-50.
Well, not necessarily. In this case, it was if they had only captured that middle point, it would have worked okay. But there was just no pressure on my side of the map.
Especially by me, but this lonely Churchill crocodile didn't get the memo. And he's driving onto the map as the game ends.
Yeah, and if you look at it, the Churchill crocodile's flamethrower was actually a hull gun instead of part of the turret or anything. So you have to be facing the infantry you're trying to flame in order to get the flame to happen.
Well, so that was just a sort of a normal game we were playing, and I think we finally got the technical issues to work. So thank you for watching, and if you have your own replays that you think were interesting, link them in the thread. Either send the replay, or if you want to do the commentary yourself, I'll post that in the thread too. But anyway. Thank you for watching. Do you have something?
Yeah. I was just gonna count the kills as the last thing, but I guess your Fallschirmjägers died, so we can't.
I think my Grenadiers beat them though. I had a squad of Grenadiers with over 30 kills.
Yeah, there's one with 30. My sniper has 32 infantry kills. My Tiger has a lighted vehicle and armor, 3 structures, and 19 infantry kills. But yeah, I think when so let's see who's the.
I think your Stuz was probably the unit of the game.
That was unit of the game. May he rest in peace next to a bombarded low fuel point.
Yeah, it was
with zeal.
I know. Right before this game, we had actually played a 1v1, and I got beat by a similar thing. A Sta was just shelling my base, and I couldn't deal with it. So, similar thing happened to the American player. But anyway, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.